Hello and welcome to In the Art Scene podcast, a place where we celebrate creatives from all walks of life. This holiday season, I wanted to share with you a few bonus episodes about small art businesses that I personally love. They're great if you're looking for unique gifts for artists and art lovers in your life. I hope you will join me in supporting them during your holiday shopping spree. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Art Scene podcast. And this is another bonus episode. And this time I'm featuring a really cool small business in Oregon, which is fairly new. I mean, few months. And I hope that you will listen and you kind of get the ideas of what to get for the artists in your life for holidays, because that is the best gift that you can probably give to anyone who likes to paint. And I have Cori Derfus with me. You might remember her from her Fur Beasts business. She's creating amazing little creatures and making coloring books with her partner in crime, Win. So now she's actually making her own watercolor. Guys, this is amazing. She's like literally getting pigments from I don't know where. So that we're going to find out right now. So for a second, Cori, can you introduce yourself for anyone who did not listen to the previous episode?
Sure. So, and thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Always a joy. Furby's Forest is a joint venture between Win and I, and we do monsters and monster art and pins and merchandise and lots of fun stuff. And I'm also an oil painter and a watercolor painter and have been for many, many years, showing in galleries and local events and online and whatnot. And so, the watercolor paint, trying to figure out how to make it. It just came to me one day. I was watching other people making these handmade watercolors, and I just love the thought of getting into the process. I love the earth colors. I love, I did a lot of ceramics in college. And so just the smell of the earth and the working with your hands and mixing it up, I found myself watching these other people mixing their paints and making their paints. And I was just drawn to the colors and the textures and the granulation that can happen and things like that. So I just got a few and started playing around with them and thought I would, if nothing else, to learn about the medium that you use all the time is great. And, I buy it in a tube and I stick it out there and use it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I love those videos, and now you're making those videos too with is it like a glass surface, and you have this thing, and you're kind of grinding in the binder, or like looks like oil. I don't know what it is, but it's weirdly satisfying to look at those things.
And it's been super relaxing, and I guess that's why I started it, because I love mixing the colors. I've always loved texture and color, whether it's yarn or painting or whatever. There's ceramics. I love the more natural like raku firings and things like that. So it felt really relaxing, and this year's been super stressful off and on. So that was kind of just a fun thing to start doing. And yeah, it is. It's making them by hand is great, because first off, the big thing too is, if you've been working as an artist for a long time, a lot of the materials that we used and started with were super toxic. I remember going into the oil studio and just the smell of the turpentine. We had no air filtration, and the things that you clean your brushes with, and I'd stick it in my coffee on accident. And it's like,
yeah,
Lord knows, like we've all done that, like, oops, that wasn't the turpentine, that was my coffee. And so I think that combined, trying to learn more about the medium, plus using natural ingredients, and then these paints are super pigmented. They're really rich because they're small batches, and they're not, you don't have to, they're handmade with glass. They're just really, really rich. And so the other thing I've been learning too is, about granulation, and some of them have different textures and they'll mix together differently. So it's been a bit of a learning curve. I've done a lot of single pigments. I've been trying to play around a little bit with some mixed ones. So my recent set I came out with was an Inktober set, because as an artist, a lot of people get on these daily drawings, and originally it started with a ink, in just black and white drawing.
Yeah, Inktober. Yeah. I think it's still going on. Yeah.
Lots of Drawalloweens, and have all these different art challenges. So I thought it would be really cool to come out with a set of like gray tones. And I like dark tones. So I came out with that. And it's just really cool to get into, where each different pigment is made from different things. So they'll have different textures, and then they'll mix differently. And some of them will have the granulation where as it dries, you can kind of see like these the pigment buildups, and how the water works with it. So it's been a definite learning curve. I know the first set that I came out with, I was really interested in finding something that was like local and healthy to use. So I found somebody on Etsy. It's White Snake Arts. She goes out and collects pigments from the earth, and she mixes the.
Oh, I was going to ask, what kind of pigments you're using, because you mentioned earth a couple of times.
Yeah. So that first set I came out with, I got the pigments from her. They're a little more expensive because they're, again, small sourced. It's local from the Oregon area. And I work with somebody in the library whose family owns a bee farm. So I've gotten my honey from her farm. So that really spoke to me as, trying to find some, really local Pacific Northwest, Oregon based and healthy, alternative. So I came out, there's 6 colors in that set that I got from her pigments.
So the set that I got from you is the first one, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, that's going to be, guys, that's history already. I don't think it's available anymore.
I've actually just mixed some more. So yeah,
okay.
That's what I want to keep, coming back to, I think, just because that's kind of what started it all, was this, a healthy paint. I know there are some people who do have allergies to like clove oils, or because you have to put a bit of a preservative in it, but instead of using something more toxic, basically the paint is made with the pigments. You mix the medium, the binder.
Are you using gummy Arabic?
Yes, mixed along with the honey, and then a bit of clove oil is what I use for the preservative. So you can keep these guys in the fridge if you're going to have them for a long time. They'll preserve it a little bit longer. Also,
should I keep them in the fridge?
You don't need to, unless it's going to be like months and months. Before using them, you could. But I do, because they are based in honey too. They have a different texture and they can get melty. So I'm always, when I send them off, I put them in little foils, and then you let people know to put them in the fridge for a few minutes if it's been hot, because we've had a really hot summer.
Yeah.
And some of I've played around a little bit with the mica paints, which are less shiny, glittery paints. You can get that, which is also a non-toxic ingredient, and those do have a little bit more of a tacky and melty. I've had some that went, and if you ship them too early, they might flow. But I found some tinfoil, and so it's all been a bit of a learning curve, like how to wrap the paints, and how one thing to mix them, and then what do you put them in, and then what all the little things that fit and go with. So
I'm so curious to learn more about pigments, because if it's like it's a clay, it's a soil from different places, right? So
it can be, you can make pigments from so many things. There is someone here locally who makes ink out of local plants. They actually taught a class up the road, and different ways of soaking the plant to get the pigment out of that, and then drying it and turning it into. So you can get it, from different ground materials. You can get it from plants. You can get it from, like the bone black is basically animal charred bones. That's one that's been around for a long time.
I was thinking, why is it called bone black? Because bones are white.
Yeah. Not when you char them.
Wow.
Yeah. So they can be from different things. But all the ones from that first set I did, those are all from Oregon ground earth, except for the Maya indigo blue is mixed with an indigo. It's a plant base. So you get that blue from the plant material. And that one's a really strong and vibrant color. A lot of these are, so it's been interesting to learn because I didn't know most of that,
Yeah, it is interesting. And it kind of feels like, you when you were talking about this, like how to soak the plants, dry the plants, or collect the dirt, and they mix together, and like there's the whole alchemy. And I couldn't help it but thinking like in the like 15th, 16th century, that's what painters did, right? That's what they did.
Yeah.
It's like almost like we're going back in time. And my next question was like, are they going to fade over time? On the other hand, when you're thinking about like old masters, like their paints didn't fade. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit, but
Right. And I think it depends on the pigments. So again, I do not profess to be, I'm still learning, but there's different light fastness of different pigments. And so they all have a different light fastness. And some of them will stain more also, and some will stain less. So you want to look for those things on your paints when you're buying them. Paints have their own individual like numbers, like PBK, that stands for a certain kind of pigment, or certain, a specific pigment. Your cobalt is going to have a certain pigment. Your different reds will have a different pigment. And then if you mix those colors together, you will, they should be listed. So like if you look at your paints that you buy at the store, they'll all have that listed. And then you'll have a light fastness listed on there also. So you can tell. And some of them work better over the top of others versus, others. So
that is the next level for me. Like
well, I'm still, again, like I said, totally learning. But in doing this, I've been, mixing more colors and, trying to see which colors I can mix together. I had, some flubs where I don't know if I just didn't mix them long enough, but it's like this color was just not binding. The pigments weren't binding together really well. And then they kind of separated. And at first I was trying to make something that would be more like a Northern Lights, this blue and this, yellow and green color together. And it was beautiful. But then when the water hit it, they separated. And I'm like, well, that's not cool. So I kept mixing and mixing. And so those are not for sale. But, it's, a learning experience, I think, too, because some colors I've mixed together and they're now like one of my favorite go-tos. I made this burnt caramel apple for the black set, and it's like burnt umber and the alizarin red, and I forget what else I put in it. It's listed on my shop, but I keep track of all the recipes too, because then, to go back and remix these that I like, is going to be important to keep track of. So it's a thing. But now that one's one I'm going to want to remix, because I like the granulation. I like the color is super strong and beautiful, and it turned out really well.
And it's also very interesting to listen to you talk about this, how you're experimenting, how you're failing, how you're getting something that's interesting, and checking every single attempt to make sure that you have a list of recipes. Like that's a whole production. I mean, I feel like some people, when we're buying something at the store, like even artists, we have appreciation for different pigments, and but when you are going into this with so much details, it's a totally different level of appreciation of how much work goes into it. Like not only you're, just playing for yourself, and like this is a whole production, and you're one person production, right? So it's so whenever someone is complaining that a small local business handmade stuff costs too much, guys, listen to this. This is why. This is why. And for the record, Cori's paints are not that expensive, so you can totally afford it. And I urge you to go to her Etsy shop. They're on Etsy, right?
Yes.
So what's your favorite color that you mixed so far?
Let's see. I think I really like that burnt caramel apple. And I have fun naming that one. It's funny. I've been painting for a long time. And so a lot of my professors that I learned from were very traditional. And so going with a different color name or with mixing a color, it was like, oh no, can I do that? But then there's also that part of me that like wants to play with it and be like, oh, this is made from burnt caramel. And it looks like, an apple and, using the reds and the whatever. So that's kind of how I came up with that. And that was fun. So I think I'll probably join some of that, sort of like I do in the Furbies. I love science. I love plants, but you have that monster fantasy. So you have a little bit of, tradition and a little bit of whimsy. So we'll see how that goes. But I think, that's one of my favorites. Also the cobalt. It's just gorgeous cobalt, and it's just so intense with the pigments. It was like almost so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did the swatch for it and it was just like super full. So I'll have to play around more with that. But, that plays really well with the yellow and mixes some beautiful greens. And that's what I'm also learning more of. My watercolor is very tight and very controlled. And that's usually not what watercolor is. Usually you want to let it flow and let it play. And so I've been playing more with washes and letting colors blend and mix. And even using some non-traditional like shimmery colors.
Mm-hmm.
I use that more in my Furbies work versus my traditional artwork. But, I've seen a show recently up in Seattle, and she, on her pieces, she made some beautiful handmade watercolor paper. And then on that, she used, watercolors and ink. And then there was some, shimmering with a little bit of like glimmer and mica in there. And so I think, that mix of traditional plus what's new and what can we add to it to, kind of break down those barriers. It's like, I want to not turn away from the tradition. I want to learn, where did these pigments come from? But, like a lot of places are moving away from the cadmiums because they can be dangerous. You move away from the lead white because that can be dangerous. What are some other alternatives and options? And will they, hold true, long term?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking, I'm totally salivating when you're talking about handmade paint and a handmade paper. And I'm like, oh my God, like watercolor is not my medium normally. I don't do that. But it's just listening to you. I was like, okay. Where can I source handmade paper? because I already have said, yes, right. I was thinking about her too. Yes. Guys, another artist, just plugging her, and Adelina Gonzalez was playing with some handmade paper. I'll put a link on her website, or I don't know. I'll ask her if she is selling her paper. So yeah. So check the show notes for some links and references. So she'll be there too. My next question is, how do you put the sets together? Because I
choose the color.
Yeah. How do you decide which colors go together? Because I assume that some are more translucent, some are more like cobalt. You're talking, it's like very, very rich. And like, are you choosing like a theme or color scheme or whatever? Because the sets that you're selling are 6 colors? They're pretty small. Mm-hmm. And are you planning to make them bigger?
Yeah, I will. I think just because I am so small and my batches are so limited right now, the 6 has been good. I did offer an 8, but then I ran out of the 6s, which were selling more of the black ones. So I pulled 2 and then created a new one, and that sold. So now I'm out of this. So, it's this, it takes time. It basically to mix a pan. And I started out with quarter pans, which were real small. And then I realized, some of those can run out fairly quickly. And a lot of people sell the half pans. So just trying to figure time and money and all that cost and what makes sense, I've been pushing more to the quarter pan size. And so it takes a good half hour to 45 minutes to mix one color. Mm-hmm. And then about a week later, you need to do it again and then top them off because they settle. Basically,
there's like a little dip.
They'll settle down and they'll dry a little bit, and then you put a topper on them, and then they have to settle again. So it's at least 2 weeks of a color. And then, each of them mix up a little bit differently. So I might have 6 of this one and use the same ratio and only end up with 4. or end up with 8. So it depends, each pigment mixes down differently. And so the first set, going back to your question, I wanted, that was completely based off of the Hosanna L. White Snake Arts. She had a set together, and I just bought that set of all the pigments she had. And then I made those into a set because they were themed together. It was a good mix. It is a bit of a limited palette because you don't, it's earthy. And so, but they all go together really well. And so I've swatched those out and I've kind of mixed those together a little bit. And they do all kind of work together really nicely. So that was an easy one to set up. And that was my first, my starter. And then with the blacks, I wanted a little bit of cool ones. I wanted some warm ones, and then the straight up pigments. So I had 2 black pigments just, by themselves, a single pigment. And then I mixed some blues or some burnt umbers or, other things in there to get a little bit more of because some black is warmer than others and some are cooler than others. So that's why I wanted to get like an array of, some cools and some warms. So that's where that came from. And then my next, I have some singles, the red that I have and the indigo blue mix some really beautiful purples together. So I offered that very limited because I, again, don't have a huge stockpile here. I'm just making them in my kitchen, as time permits. And so they mix down beautifully though. So I offered those as a set. And then I have the cobalt and the yellow, they mix really beautifully together in some greens. So I'm just trying to show people also what you can do with different colors and different mixing, because that's a thing that really interests me too, is like, what do you do with these when you mix them down, what can you use them for? So I want to offer more of that too. So I've been trying to show my swatches, but it's, again, you talk about that one person show, I have my phone and it's taped up to a stand and then I hit the record button and then I realized I hit it at the wrong time. So the swatch that I did, this whole, laid out thing.
Yeah.
Recorded the side of my leg instead. So I'm like, oh goodness. So, it's not beautiful over here, but it's a process and I'm trying to have fun with it. And then, share some different, just the process of using watercolor in general. So I do have some ideas. I want to have another set coming out. I'd like to do like a monster theme set where maybe I play around with some more crazy bright colors and maybe some, glittery, shimmery colors in there. And then, as winter comes, maybe something that's themed to that. So yeah, we'll see. It's, you have to plan out, what pigments you're going to have. So, to buy the pigments can be expensive. So, yeah. I'm trying to find ones that I can mix together and create a variation so you can have, like your primaries and then kind of build from there. So starting out very small here, but.
Let's take a short coffee break. This podcast is the passion project that I produce and finance myself. If you want to support the show, you are welcome to volunteer, but the easier way is to just buy me a coffee. There's a link for it in the show notes and on our website, intheartscene.com. Thank you for your support. Are you planning on any special set for the holidays?
Yeah, I'm hoping to. Again, it's time permitting. We have convention in Anaheim with Furby's Forest in November. So it's like we have a lot of build up for that. I'd like to be able to bring some sets down there because it's a lot of artists who are there. So that would be fun to do the monster set, in this next month, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have a lot of time between now and then. So, but yeah, definitely would like to boost up the sets I have now before Christmas and then maybe offer, something else with some of the brighter colors and maybe some cool wintry colors. So
All right. So for our listeners, between now and then, now is October 15. We're recording in the middle of October. And then this episode is going to be out right before Christmas. So I think like beginning of December. Right now, I don't have a date on the top of my mind. But by then, I think Cori has figured out already. And the sets, the Christmas sets, the wintry sets are probably in her shop already. So again, go check out the show notes for links and references. And if you have artists in your life who are liking to play with watercolors, they will really appreciate that. So I had another question. I think you told me you had a trip recently, and I think you mentioned, if I remember that correctly, because excuse my mom brain, I don't remember anything these days. I think you were going to dig some pigments and bring them with you back from the trip, or was it?
I have not mixed any of my own pigments. That is something that I'm going to leave to others for the moment because I have limited time and space. I love getting the pigments and then trying to think of what colors will come from them. But I will say we did take a trip down the coast to LA and then back through the center of the state and through Oregon. And on that trip, I was able to just look out and see the colors that are from these sets that but if you go to White Snake Arts, she has on her Etsy where, and I listed them also, where these different colors are from. And you can see, when you look around, the reflections of those. So I was originally intending to do more plein air when we were on the road. I did manage to take a bunch of photos, and I did one piece with those colors of out in Big Sur with the bridge. And so I'd like to do some more of those just because it's the area these pigments are from, and then the colors that reflect those. I just thought it was a neat project to do. But yeah, the plein air is a different thing. I'm more of a studio artist. I have done it out and about, but yeah, so I might have some more of those, from based on photographs and with the pigments. But yeah, I did grab a little bit of pigment when we went out to, there's a beach up here and it's like there's some crumbling, and I took a little bit of it, but I don't think I'll be mixing it down anytime soon right now.
Yeah, I know of some artists who are actually doing geological trips to different places and collect dirt specifically to make pigments.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it kind of ties together. A lot of my other artwork is nature themed, and I have a lot of plants and different, nature is a part of it. And so it's been really interesting to learn that you can just do that, go and get, earth and dirt and rocks and different materials, and then grind them all down and process them yourself. And I think it just, in this day and age when I think there's a bit of a more, I grew up in a time where everything was canned, everything was, frozen foods and Pop-Tarts, and, your cereals were blue, and everything is so processed. And where did it come from? And, hot dogs in a plastic bag, and your cheese is in a, it's flat and you can fold it up, and what is that? So everything was so processed and removed. And I think there's just a big movement now to, where do our things come from? Do we need to have all these extra things in them that really aren't healthy for us? And I think it just kind of reflects overall in our culture.
Yeah. Oh my God! I still have that package on my desk with the red soil, the iron oxide from Sedona. We got to figure out that USPS problem. I want to send it to you.
Just resend it. Raina resent the package that also got shipped back. I literally think our post office person did not want to carry packages that day.
That's a tiny little package.
I know. Yeah.
All right. I will reship it, and hopefully that, we will get the better attitude from your post office person this time.
It'll be on the day of our normal delivery, because that would be, I can't wait to see it. And And I would mix that down if I can.
Oh my God, I would be so thrilled to see what you get out of it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, my probably last question for today, where do you get time to do all of this? Because you're a person of a million projects between your art, between Fur-Beast Forest, which is like a huge production, because you're doing so many things and you come up with the new monsters like daily practically. You're doing books, you're doing merch, you're going to the conventions, and now you're mixing your own watercolors. Like how many hours a day do you have?
Not enough. Yeah, it is challenging. I think anyone who is a small business owner / artist who also is a small business owner, really, unless they have a patron supporting them completely, it's a challenge to find the time and then to also make the time to not be working. We have projects out constantly. Part of the kitchen is just now paints. And I have a rolling cart, and that's where they sit in the next to the cat food. So we it's a challenge to, I'm constantly bouncing from one thing to another. I have 3 Etsy shops, 3 Instagrams, so trying to keep up with everything, it can be challenging. I do find the paint making is relaxing and fun, and I look forward to it. Like, which day this week can I mix the paints, and when can I think about, like yesterday morning, I'm like, I'm just gonna sit down and make some color swatches and play with the colors, and that is so relaxing to me and fun that I'm kind of making myself make the time. There is that also the other part of, okay, now I have orders, so now every order takes I have to take the pan, I have to wrap it in a little tiny foil.
Yeah.
And I have to paint up the little piece of watercolor paper that I wrap them around with each, color. And then I have to prepare the box and the little swatch that goes in the box. And then, so it's all these steps. So it can get tedious. And, but in all, I love paint. I mean, it's like, you go to an art store and you're like, ooh, it's like Candyland,
Yeah.
So I think, I just find the time, and usually it's about one day a week or so where I can make a chunk of hours. And so I've been trying to make a list of, what do I need to re-up, and then when can I bring some new ones forward? And if it doesn't happen that week, then, I just push it out to the next week, because it is, it's just, I want to keep the fun enjoyment of it along with, trying to grow it. So, there's never enough hours in a day.
Yeah, for sure. How did you come up with the name Dusty Bee?
Oh, that was fun. Well, first I started with, what was the name? I came up with the name, and my daughter was like, "You can't use that, Mom. That sounds inappropriate." Oh, maybe it was like Dirty Bee.
Dirty Bee.
Because my thought was, like a play on mixing, dirt, ground pigments, and then, the honeybee, because I love painting bees. So I have, I love bees. And so I wanted to play on that. And she said I couldn't use that. It sounded like it could be taken incorrectly. So I changed it to Dusty, because I'm like, well, Dusty is still, the pigments. And then the bee is for the watercolor, or, the binder of the honey. So
that would be a very specific set of colors, probably. Well, all right, I know. So this is a totally new brand, and I am just amazed how you were coming up with this stuff, because the first thing I know, you were trying to mix some colors, and I see those videos on YouTube, and the next thing, boom, you have a logo, you have a new Instagram, you have a new Etsy shop. So it's like it's a real thing right now. Dusty Bee is actually a real thing. It's a brand. It's a production with like, I mean, yes. It's a whole thing.
It's certainly a production.
Like a whole new business. So speaking of that, where can people find you? Where in Dusty Bee? Where can people find Dusty Bee?
Basically right now I have the Etsy shop and I have the Instagram, and then I usually share things off of my art page also. And so I need to retweak my website, and I don't know if I'll have it by the time the show airs, but I'd like to just add, I think, the Dusty Bee to my own page and kind of have its own separate information page so I can explain the story behind it and share things about watercolor and using it and things like that. But right now it's just the Instagram, just the Etsy.
All right. And people can buy it from Etsy, but they cannot buy it from Instagram.
No, that's a challenging thing to do.
I know. I try.
I've been approved on both my other sites, so I can't figure out how to set it up. So I just link off to my shops.
All right. So, again, I will make sure to post everything in the show notes, the Etsy, the Instagram. So guys, please go follow Dusty Bee and follow the journey. I mean, Cori is doing so many interesting things, and she's really geeking on this. She's like really drilling into the science and experiments and everything. It's just interesting to watch and learn, kind of following your steps. Even like I think I will never, I mean, yes, I went to Sedona and I collected that red dirt, thinking that one day I probably will do this because, like you, I was inspired by all those videos, with like mixing the pigment with binder and stuff, because it looks fantastic. But then I realized that I probably, I don't know how many years is going to pass until I'll get it. So this is why I decided to send it to you, because it will be put to a better use sooner. But I like, just by watching you and listening to you, I feel like I get to learn so much about how things are made. It almost feels like I am like I am a part of this process, even though I'm not doing anything with my hands. So
I was going to say, and come learn with me, because I am learning. I've been an artist for a long time, but, I am learning every day. I am, reading books to try and learn more. And I think if, doing it together is more fun.
Do you think you're going to do workshops one day about how to make watercolor paints?
That would be fun. Yeah, I know there's some people doing it here locally. But, there's always online as well. And yeah, sharing with people how to do it, that would definitely be a fun thing to do, I think.
Oh, yeah. It would be actually a pretty cool set just to send people some pigments, some binder, and like a coupon for online class. Get your supplies and go to online class and do something. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. Well, it's free. I know I will for sure shop for some gifts to the watercolor artists that I know personally who would appreciate. I'm already eyeing some mica pigments, like shimmery stuff, because I have a friend who likes metallics and shimmery things, and she's doing some experiments on black paper. It really looks awesome.
Oh,
yeah. So I will be one of the first, grabbing stuff from your Etsy. So guys, by the time you're listening to this episode, don't lose any more minutes. Just go to Etsy shop, because she might be sold out. Like way before Christmas, she might be just sold out, and she is a one-person operation. So make sure you do it as early as you can, because I'm telling you, I'm excited about this. I invited Cori to this episode because I bought a first set that she created. Even though I'm not a watercolor artist, I'm kind of trying, like dipping my toes into this, and it's a lot of fun. I just have so much appreciation and so much excitement to see how those things are made, and then I can take them and create something with it. So yeah, any artist will just love getting this kind of little gift for Christmas.
Yes, and thank you so much for the support and for supporting this little pet project. And it's just always so really cool to see what everyone makes with them. So different artists I know, Ezard, they've made some and very different, from what I do. And I met somebody at one of our last conventions, and she's been sharing with me what she's been doing, which is, also very different, these, adorable little works. So it's always great to see what people are making.
Yeah, and with Ezard, it's actually very interesting, guys. If you remember Ezard, if you don't, go re-listen to that episode. I'll link it down below somewhere. They're using only CMYK, and I remember when they were buying stuff from you, like you were probably trying to collect things that are as close to CMYK as possible. Right?
Yes. So as soon as I got a few colors that were in that set,
well, that's a perk of knowing the artist and the maker personally. So you can request a custom set. Well, thank you so much. This is exciting. This is absolutely exciting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And you're one of the people who inspire me a lot because, I keep complaining that I don't have to, like, even before I had a baby, I was complaining that, some things take so much time and I don't have time to go to the studio and just, looking at you, finding time to work on so many projects and, beside the projects, having a pet project that is actually relaxing and fun, but it's all kind of growing into something significant because you are not just time passing, right? You're creating something. Like every minute of the day you're creating something. So I aspire to be one day like you.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet.
All right, well, thank you so much. Have great holidays. I mean, I know it's October 15th, but by the time we're on air, it's almost holidays. So have fun holidays. Have great sales for DSTB and for Beast Forests for holidays. And thank you for coming again.
Yeah, thank you again so very much, and have wonderful holidays too.
Thank you. You guys have wonderful holidays as well. I don't know if I will have another bonus episode, but I probably will. So stay tuned for that. Have nice holidays yourself. I think we're going to have Cori on the podcast again because I'm pretty sure that next year she's going to come up with some other project that will be fun to talk about. So yeah, you're a regular now.
Well, I'm always glad to come. It's a joy.
All right. Thank you for being in the art scene. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It has been another episode of In the Art Scene podcast. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a good review on Apple. And go listen to other great stories. Check out our website intheartscene.com or follow us on Instagram at intheartscene for more content. If you are a creative and you want to share your story, shoot us a message from the website or DM us on Instagram. Look forward to seeing you next time in the art scene.